Hi, today I'd like to talk about Chapter 8 in our textbook, pages 186 through 223. I want to start off by talking about plot. Plot is the artful arrangement of incidents in a story, which each incident building on the next series of causes and effects. An example would be if the three restless teens in Greasy Lake had simply spent the night driving and drinking, stopping at a friend's house, and throwing eggs at mailboxes. The story would have been a mere arrangement of chronological events. My example would be, where are you going, where have you been, on page 205. Connie's mother wants her to be like her sister June. She meets a guy, falls in love with him. He ends up stalking her and takes her. If only she would have listened to her mother. Exposition. Exposition is the presentation of necessary information about the character setting, or characters in the story. Example: in Anton Chekhov's The Lady with the Pet Dog, a man alone on vacation, perhaps restless after 2 weeks, notices a woman alone approaching her. My example: in those days, it wasn't so unusual for a little girl to walk in the forest by herself, especially since her grandmother's house was so close by. In media res, in the middle of things, an example would be, in the story of an hour, we immediately learn what's at stake. Mr. Mallard has died, and someone has to inform that the fragile Miss Mallard. My example would be, the forest felt especially dark and creepy. She thought, as she sat off in her red cloak with a basket of goodies for her grandmother. Protagonist, the main figure in a work of literature. Example would be Little Red Riding Hood. My example would be Tarzan. Antagonist, the adversary of the hero of protagonist of a drama or other literary work. An example would be the wolf. My example would be Bob Ewell in To Kill a Mockingbird. Conflict, a struggle between two opposing forces, usually a protagonist and an antagonist. An example would be the big bad wolf is leading the poor defenseless Little Red Riding Hood into a trap. My example would be, in The Lord of the Flies, Ralph and Jack had a conflict. Jack and his tribe given to their instinct and try to kill Ralph and his boys. Climax. Climax is in which the conflict or tension hits the highest point. An example would be the wolf tore off its cap and leaped from the bed, teeth and claws bared. My example would be in Romeo and Juliet. In the first scene of the act, Romeo challenges Tybalt to a duel after he killed Mercutio.